Something vanished after 3i Atlas passed the Sun. Not a dust tail, something deeper, something we shouldn't even be able to lose. When the interstellar object made its closest approach, its perihelion, NASA expected the usual: a bright flare, an expanding coma, the shedding of ice and rock as sunlight stripped its surface. Instead, the telescopes recorded something no comet has ever done. Atlas went dark. If you're here because something about this doesn't sit right with you, if you want to follow this through to the end without the headlines getting in the way, subscribe now, you won't want to miss December, and leave a comment. Where are you watching from? What's the time? Because while you're watching this, 269 million kilometers away, something is either breaking apart or proving everyone wrong. For 17 full minutes, every optical telescope tracking it lost visual lock. The signal from the James Webb, gone. The solar probes, blank. Even the radio spectrometers went silent, as if the object had simply erased itself from every wavelength we used to see. And then it reappeared. Smaller. Roughly 12% of its measured mass was gone. That alone defied physics, but what came next made even veteran astronomers whisper the word impossible. Because what disappeared wasn't dust, ice, or gas. It was energy. When light from the Sun hit 3i Atlas after perihelion, the reflected spectrum had changed. The albedo dropped. The surface was colder than it should have been, colder than space itself, as if the object had absorbed something fundamental from the environment around it. In other words, it didn't lose material. It lost heat, reflection, identity. The simplest explanation would have been, it vented gas. The surface composition changed, standard cometary behavior. But every simulation failed. Every chemical model came back broken. The only variable that matched the data was negative radiation flux, which means energy wasn't emitted, it was taken. By what? No one at NASA will say. But the leaked internal transcript from the Solar Dynamics Division tells a stranger story. In the middle of the blackout, the spacecraft Parker Solar Probe recorded a microburst, a gravity fluctuation near the Sun's corona. A brief ripple, like the space around Atlas was stretching and contracting in rhythm. Some called it a data artifact. Others, like Dr. Emeka Carr, who first flagged it, didn't. Her memo reads, "Object is interacting with solar field at quantum boundary, not gravitational drift. Possible absorption event." Absorption of what, though? Here's where the story turns. When light returned, Atlas's trajectory had shifted, not away from the Sun, but slightly upward relative to the ecliptic plane. The vector change wasn't random, it matched the exact angle of the original inbound path of Oumuamua. Coincidence? That's what NASA called it. But there's a problem. No natural object has ever used the Sun's gravity like that. You don't leave perihelion by moving out of the solar plane unless something changes your momentum deliberately, either by thrust or by control. And yet there's no exhaust signature, no outgassing, no visible jets. It's as if the object decided to adjust its course without leaving a trace, which raises the question, what if the thing that went missing wasn't part of Atlas at all? What if it left something behind? Astronomers at the Mauna Kea Observatory noticed a subtle echo in the data, a phantom reflection that appears just ahead of Atlas's new trajectory, too faint to resolve as a second body, but moving in perfect sync. They call it the shadow companion. It emits no light, no radio signal, and yet, when sunlight strikes it, the field around it bends ever so slightly, like gravity itself is distorted by something invisible. And this invisible distortion has a pulse, exactly 314 cycles per minute, the same frequency recorded during Atlas's first flyby months ago, the same number buried in the resonance models of the object's spin. Coincidence again? NASA says yes. But the timing is too perfect. The hum that astronomers once thought was interference has returned, stronger, more organized, broadcasting faint rhythmic patterns that seem to sync with the planet's magnetic field. Whatever Atlas became after perihelion, it's no longer passive. Now let's talk about what the public wasn't told. 3 days after perihelion, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory uploaded new tracking coordinates. For 6 hours the file existed. Then, without explanation, it was deleted. Every backup, every mirror server, purged. But an independent researcher, using archived relay data, found that the missing coordinates placed Atlas on a return path, not toward interstellar space, toward Earth. Only the approach isn't direct. The trajectory forms a slow spiral, each revolution tightening, as if the object is scanning the inner solar system, mapping, searching, and with each pass the hum grows louder. Infrasound monitors in Antarctica have begun detecting pulses deep below the ice shelf. Same rhythm, same interval, no geological source. If it's a signal, it's not just from space, it's resonating through the planet itself, which means whatever changed in Atlas is already interacting with us. Now here's where it gets chilling. A classified report leaked last night suggests NASA and ESA jointly issued a containment directive. Several deep space telescopes were quietly put into standby mode. Data streams encrypted. The official reason, system recalibration. Unofficially, it's the same protocol used during the Oumuamua data lockdown in 2017. Why hide what's happening after perihelion? Because if the energy Atlas absorbed from the sun wasn't lost, if it was stored, then the object may now hold a charge unlike anything we've measured in space. Something that bends light, warps magnetic fields, and leaves a shadow made of nothing. And if that's true, it means our instruments aren't seeing what's missing. They're seeing what's becoming invisible. That's the question haunting every observatory right now. Did 3i Atlas vanish for 17 minutes because it passed behind the sun, or because it learned how to hide? If the missing energy represents more than just radiation, if it's matter itself that's being converted, we may be witnessing the first known instance of artificial phase transition, an object shifting its physical state to cross dimensions of observation. Not faster than light travel, not cloaking, something in between, existing where light can't follow. And if that's true, then what disappeared wasn't lost at all. It's still here, just watching. Stay with me, because the next part gets stranger. Amateur astronomers across Chile, Japan, and South Africa all captured short bursts of plasma where Atlas was supposed to be visible. Not trails, flares, shaped like arcs, forming geometric alignments, triangles, perfect triangles, each one appearing for less than a second, each aligned toward the same point, a coordinate not in deep space, but just above Earth's magnetic cusp. Scientists dismissed it as coronal ejections interacting with the solar wind. But the formation repeated, 3 times, and on the third the hum shifted, from 314 to 315, a fraction of a second faster, like something synchronizing. NASA calls it coincidence. But when coincidences start to count time, they stop being coincidences. The truth is, something went missing after perihelion, and it wasn't material. It was definition. 3i Atlas has stopped behaving like an object. It's acting like a system, something that learns, adapts, and now, possibly, reacts. If that's the case, we're not just watching a comet anymore, we're watching communication. And the part that vanished? Maybe that's the part we were never supposed to see. When something disappears in space, it usually leaves a trace. Dust, ionized gas, a photon signature, something. But what's haunting scientists right now is that 3i Atlas didn't leave anything. It erased its own evidence. For weeks, NASA's tracking algorithms kept recalibrating, trying to locate the missing energy signature. They called it a data anomaly, but that phrase has become their favorite way of saying, we have no idea what's going on. Then, 2 nights ago, something extraordinary happened. A private observatory in Chile, part of the Atacama Deep Sky Network, caught a faint echo in the radio band, the exact bandwidth used by the Deep Space Network to communicate with outer solar probes, but there was no spacecraft there, no signal origin. Yet the frequency carried metadata, numbers repeating in triplets. 3, 1, 4, the same pattern again, the same one, that keeps showing up in the hum, the plasma arcs, and now in the missing signal itself. But here's the part no one can explain. Those numbers weren't just a sequence, they were coordinates. When decoded, they pointed directly to a point in space just outside Earth's magnetosphere, near the L1 Lagrange point. That's the same region where NASA's SOHO and ACE satellites orbit, and at the exact moment the coordinates matched, both satellites went offline. For 22 minutes, NASA's solar monitoring feed, the same one that updates every few seconds, froze. No solar wind data, no plasma readings, nothing. When the feed came back, Everything looked normal, except for one thing. A faint shadow appeared near the sun's limb, not a flare, not a CME, a void, a shape. And in that void, the light around it bent just enough to suggest mass. If that's true, if what reappeared near the sun was connected to 3I Atlas, then it didn't just survive perihelion, it changed. It evolved into something we don't have a category for. NASA quietly renamed its internal project folder. What was once labelled Interstellar Comet Monitoring now reads Object Delta, Adaptive Resonance Analysis. Adaptive, resonance, words no one would ever use for a rock. So what exactly went missing? According to an internal European Space Agency leak, spectroscopic data shows that 3I Atlas no longer reflects carbon-based signatures. The readings that once showed traces of frozen organic compounds, gone. Instead, the surface now absorbs over 90% of incoming visible light, almost like the blackest materials ever engineered on Earth. One researcher called it a perfect absorber. Another, off-record, called it the first stealth object from another star. If that's true, then it means the object didn't just darken. It became a kind of absorber, capable of taking in light, heat, and radiation, converting it into something else. The question is, what? One theory gaining quiet traction among astrophysicists is that Atlas used the sun's energy to initiate a transformation, like a seed exposed to light for the first time, because every measurement now shows something uncanny. The object's spin rate has stabilized. It's rotating at an exact, unchanging frequency. 3.14 cycles per minute. It's as if the entire object has synchronized with the same hum echoing across the solar system, and what that means is that it might not be alone. Here's where it gets almost unbelievable. The hum, the same one picked up after Atlas's disappearance, is now being detected in unexpected places, under the ocean, across the poles, deep within seismic data. Hydrophones off the coast of Iceland recently registered rhythmic infrasound patterns identical to the Atlas frequency. The source? Somewhere beneath the North Atlantic Ridge, a tectonic region that shouldn't be producing harmonic resonance at all. At first, scientists assumed it was machinery, submarines perhaps, or experimental sonar. But the timing lined up exactly with the last time Atlas passed behind the sun. Every time it vanishes from sight, Earth's magnetic field sings. It's as if we're being tuned. Inside NASA, panic has shifted to obsession. A document leaked from the Goddard Space Flight Center describes a new initiative, Project Echo. Its goal? To intentionally transmit controlled radio pulses matching the 3.14 frequency, toward the point where Atlas last appeared. It's an act of contact, or a test. But why would NASA risk interacting with something they can't explain? Because they've realized something. The missing portion of Atlas, the 12% of its mass that vanished during perihelion, might not have been destroyed. It may have detached. A fragment now orbiting inside Earth's own magnetic envelope. And that fragment, according to leaked orbital models, may already be influencing the planet's atmosphere. Global ionospheric anomalies have been quietly rising. The northern lights have begun appearing at lower latitudes, shimmering with an unnatural rhythm. Every aurora captured since perihelion pulses in near-perfect intervals. 3 flashes, pause, 1. Even the auroras are singing. The deeper NASA looks, the stranger it becomes. In recent days, data from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter picked up weak magnetic fluctuations on the dark side of the Moon. No solar interaction, no geological activity, just an echo. And the timing of that echo? It corresponds perfectly with Atlas's post-perihelion trajectory. As if something invisible passed between the Earth and Moon, leaving behind not light, but resonance. What's worse is that the same pattern was detected near Jupiter's magnetosphere 2 months ago, then again near Mars. Each time, the hum gets slightly stronger, as if the solar system itself is being wired together, one planet at a time. Something's forming a network, and whatever 3I Atlas became after perihelion, it might be the conductor. So NASA's silence isn't fear, it's coordination. They've stopped calling it a comet. They've stopped calling it an anomaly. Internally, the new classification is Variable Interstellar Resonant Entity. VIRE, a name that sounds more biological than mechanical, more alive than inert. One researcher who helped decode the magnetic pulse said something chilling. It's not sending a message, it's building an environment. That's when the word adaptation started showing up in internal files, because the hum's pitch isn't static anymore. It's changing, adjusting itself in response to Earth's ionospheric activity. If it's intelligent, it's not communicating in words or signals, it's communicating in physics, by altering the conditions of space itself. Tonight, NASA plans another transmission, this time directly from the deep, Space Network in Canberra. The frequency, you guessed it, 3.14 cycles per minute. The official purpose is data calibration. The unofficial purpose is confirmation. They want to know if it's listening, because if 3i Atlas responds, if the hum shifts back, even slightly, then it means this entire time it hasn't been an object moving through our solar system. It's been observing, recording, synchronizing, and maybe, just maybe, learning to speak. Something went missing after Perihelion. But what if that missing piece wasn't lost at all? What if it was sent ahead, to prepare, to adapt? And by the time we finally understand what we're hearing in that endless hum, it might already have done what it came here to do. The transmission went out at 03 Jawi UTC. It wasn't publicized. No press release, no press conference, just a faint, rhythmic pulse. 3 seconds on, 1 off. Transmitted directly from the Canberra Deep Space Network toward the coordinates where 3i Atlas last disappeared. Every scientist in the control room expected silence. That's all space usually gives us, silence. But 22 minutes later, they got something back. Not a return ping, not reflected noise, something structured. A low, oscillating signal that shifted between 2 frequencies, pulsing in the same 314 rhythm. But the amplitude didn't stay constant. It grew. The longer the transmission continued, the stronger the return wave became, until their instruments started to peak. They tried to cut the transmission, but even after they powered down, the signal kept coming. That's when one engineer said, "It's not bouncing back, it's following the line." Across the world, antennas in Chile, South Africa and Japan began picking up the same rhythm. The hum had gone global. The 3.14 pattern, once a faint cosmic whisper, was now resonating through Earth's ionosphere like a carrier wave. Air traffic controllers reported magnetic interference. GPS networks glitched. And then, deep under the Pacific, seismographs started registering something impossible. Micro-vibrations, steady and uniform, originating not from tectonic plates, but from the core. NASA's seismic liaison described it bluntly. It's like the Earth itself is answering. Within hours, the data made it clear. Every time the hum pulsed, a faint gravitational fluctuation rippled through the atmosphere. It was small, 0.1%, but synchronized so perfectly that even satellites outside Earth's orbit recorded the echo. That's not random noise. That's coherence. It meant the signal wasn't traveling through space. It was being amplified by it. Which left one terrifying possibility. The space between the Earth and 3i Atlas was no longer empty. It had become a medium, a bridge. By dawn, NASA's emergency communications were in full lockdown. Leaks describe a single phrase repeated in the internal network. Phase alignment approaching threshold. What threshold? No one could say for certain. But a confidential email from a European Space Agency physicist offers a clue. If the resonance frequency reaches phase unity, we might experience local gravitational inversion, like the planet skipping a beat. In other words, if the hum reached perfect sync, gravity itself could fluctuate. It sounds like science fiction, until you realize it already has. During the transmission, atomic clocks across 3 continents recorded nanosecond-scale desynchronization events. Tiny shifts, but global, as if the entire planet blinked, together. And then, just before sunrise in Australia, something appeared in the sky. Observers at the Tidbinbilla tracking station noticed a faint distortion near the eastern horizon. Not light, not shadow, but a bend in the atmosphere. Moments later, telescopes confirmed it. 3i Atlas had reappeared, but it wasn't where it was supposed to be. The object had jumped almost 0.03 AU off its projected orbit, tens of millions of kilometers in the wrong direction. And yet, every model confirmed it hadn't traveled that distance. It had shifted. No acceleration, no trail, just displacement. That's when Dr. Kaur, the same researcher who'd warned about the absorption event, spoke the words that made the room go silent. It's not moving through space, it's moving through states. Atlas now glows differently. Not white, not gold, but a faint, impossible blue, like starlight trapped inside crystal. Its surface temperature reads colder than space, yet it's emitting a continuous electromagnetic signature, stable, rhythmic, and alive. And for the first time, the signal no longer points outward. It points here, to Earth, to the very frequency NASA used to call out to it, and now, every time the hum pulses, the upper atmosphere flashes with invisible ultraviolet light. Satellites see it, aurora cameras see it, even some smartphone sensors have started picking it up as brief, static blips. 314, 314, again and again. It's no longer a comet, it's a mirror. Scientists are now debating whether 3I Atlas was ever a natural object at all. What if the material loss during perihelion was never destruction, but division? What if the object was designed to leave part of itself behind, a seed embedded within the electromagnetic architecture of every planet it passes, each seed tuned to resonate, to link, to connect? If that's true, then the moment NASA transmitted the 314 pulse, they didn't make contact. They completed the circuit. And that's why the signal grew stronger even after they cut power, because it no longer needed a transmitter. It had found one. Us. The evidence is mounting. Power grids across northern Europe have reported harmonic surges that align precisely with the Atlas frequency. Quantum accelerators at CERN and Fermilab have logged phase noise, a kind of background hum that wasn't there before. Even the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural electromagnetic heartbeat, has started to drift closer to 314 Hz. It's as though the planet itself is being tuned to match something beyond it, something waiting. And inside NASA's Deep Space Division, there's a rumour, quiet but persistent, that the final spectrograph of Atlas shows a flicker pattern in its reflective light. Not random static, but structured intervals, binary. When decoded, it reads like a countdown. No one knows what it's counting toward, or when it started, but every cycle brings it closer to zero, so now the agencies are stuck in an impossible situation. They can't warn the public, not without proof. They can't stop observing, not without risking blindness. And they can't deny what's happening, because the data won't let them. Atlas is still there. It's still glowing. And with every hum that passes through the air, through the oceans, through our own heartbeat, one thing becomes painfully clear. Whatever's missing after perihelion isn't gone. It's inside the signal, inside us. Stay until the end, because this is only the first phase. What comes next might not just challenge our understanding of physics, but redefine what it means to be observed. For a moment the world seemed normal again. The hum faded. The skies went quiet. Power grids stabilized, and scientists dared to think it was over. A passing anomaly, a freak resonance that would fade like static. But silence, in science, is rarely peace. It's prelude. Because while the world stopped listening, the signal didn't stop transmitting. It only went deeper, beneath the surface. At 04:22 GMT, deep-sea hydrophones off the Mariana Trench began picking up rhythmic tremors, not from tectonic movement, but from the water itself. The sound was soft, steady, impossibly precise. 3 seconds, 1 pause, 4 low oscillations. 314. The same frequency, the same pattern, but now, instead of travelling through the atmosphere, it was emanating upward. When analysts compared timestamps, the signal matched perfectly with 3I Atlas's last visible pulse near the Sun, as though the planet and the object were now synchronized. NASA quietly reclassified the event under a new term, mirror phase synchronization. No one outside their inner circle knows exactly what that means, but a leaked internal document offers a single, chilling line. The object and the host are now entangled. Host. They called Earth a host. Meanwhile, around the world, sensors started behaving strangely. In Greenland, Ice Core Labs recorded magnetic interference so strong it corrupted terabytes of environmental data. In Chile, telescope mirrors began vibrating in rhythm with the hum, even while their mounts were locked, and in Japan, seismologists noticed something terrifying. the Earth's microseismic. Background noise, the subtle hum of the planet, had begun to align with the Atlas frequency. The Earth itself was starting to echo. Then came the visual proof. At 2:15 a.m. in the southern hemisphere, an aurora appeared, but not where it should have been. Instead of the poles, it rippled across the equator. Bright, symmetrical, almost geometric, like a perfect ring around the planet. Satellite imagery showed something no aurora has ever done before. It rotated. Not with the Earth, but against it. Counter to its spin. It wasn't reacting to the sun. It was responding to something else. Something pulling from the inside. For the first time, NASA's control feeds went dark for longer than 24 hours. When they returned, the official explanation was solar interference. But leaked footage told a different story. The sun's activity had dropped to historic lows. The corona, the solar wind, all quiet. And yet, 3I Atlas had brightened. Astronomers described it as impossible. Normally comets dim as they move away from the sun. But Atlas had intensified, glowing with a steady luminescence that refused to fade, as if something inside it was burning colder. Then the motion changed again. It wasn't travelling away anymore. It was slowing. Not from gravity, not from drag, but as if it had reached the end of a journey it was never meant to complete. And then it began to turn, its new trajectory, a gradual calculated curve, pointing not back toward interstellar space but directly toward the Earth-Sun L1 point, the same region where the original return signal came from, the same region that NASA's secret transmission had targeted. Now, here's where everything began to unravel. A new object appeared beside Atlas, faint, barely visible, but undeniably there. It wasn't debris, it wasn't reflection, it was structure, shaped, symmetrical. Scientists call it an interferent echo, a byproduct of overlapping wave fields. But every frame from the solar and heliospheric observatory shows the same outline. 2 concentric rings, connected by 4 lines rotating counterclockwise. To anyone else, it looks like a lens. To NASA's data team, it looks like a receiver. And then came the part that no simulation could explain. The hum changed. It no longer pulsed 3 to 1-4. The timing shifted to 313.9. The fraction dropped by an infinitesimal amount, but enough to suggest the signal was responding to something measurable. And that's when the countdown appeared. It began as random noise inside radio spectrograms, but when aligned with the Atlas frequency, the pattern repeated every 1/200 seconds. The values weren't random, they were sequential. Each pulse was a decrement, and if you line them up by timestamp, the final 0 point lands 37 days from the moment of NASA's initial broadcast. 37 days. No one knows what happens then, but one anonymous engineer described what the models predict. If it keeps syncing, we'll reach total phase lock, Earth and Atlas sharing identical electromagnetic signatures, and if that happens, we stop being 2 separate systems. In plain terms, the planet and the object merge, not physically, but resonantly. A single frequency, a single rhythm, a single system. Scientists call it phase singularity. Philosophers call it the end of separation. But to those working in the control rooms, the ones who've seen the raw data, the light curves, the aurora that spin against the Earth, it looks like something else. A test. Because every signal we've sent into the dark, Voyager, Pioneer, Golden Records, has been one question. Is anyone out there? But what if the answer isn't out there at all? What if it's been waiting for resonance? For us to speak in its language, not through radio or light, but through vibration, through synchronization, through the one thing the universe understands best, frequency. Avi Loeb recently said in a private briefing, maybe the reason we've never detected life is because it doesn't send messages, it sends harmonies. Maybe Atlas isn't a visitor at all. Maybe it's a trigger, a kind of cosmic switch designed to activate once a civilization begins broadcasting at the right frequency. Once they create the same hum, the same rhythm, the same pulse. Once they say, in cosmic language, we're ready. And now that NASA has said it, whether intentionally or not, the message has been delivered, and Atlas has started to reply. It's already begun. The ionosphere is pulsing again, ocean currents have started fluctuating in 3-second intervals. Migratory birds are flying off course, tracing near-perfect spirals over magnetic zones. Every system tuned to Earth's magnetic heartbeat is changing. And those who listen closest, geophysicists, deep space observers, shortwave operators, all say the same thing. The hum isn't just louder, it's closer, it's inside everything, in power lines, in the ocean floor, in us, because whatever went missing after Perihelion, whatever vanished from 3i Atlas, wasn't destroyed, it was transferred. And now, it's waking up. The countdown hasn't stopped, it's accelerating. When NASA's internal clocks registered the 24-hour mark, the hum shifted again. Subtle at first, then unmistakable. It wasn't just a signal now, it was modulation. Every cycle grew shorter by a fraction of a millisecond, like a pendulum speeding toward equilibrium. But this wasn't natural harmonization, it was convergence. And then something happened no one had predicted. Time, measurable, mechanical time, began to distort. Atomic clocks in Boulder, Geneva, and Tokyo all lost synchronization at once, not by seconds, but microseconds. Tiny, precise fractures in global timekeeping. Enough to make GPS satellites drift out of alignment, enough to throw off orbital telemetry, enough to whisper one terrifying truth. Earth's relationship with space was changing. Because time, after all, is just the rhythm of motion through gravity. And when that rhythm falters, so does everything. Inside NASA's Goddard data center, the term temporal lensing began appearing in encrypted memos. One leaked note described it this way. We're seeing local time dilation pockets, expanding and collapsing in rhythm with the Atlas hum. Each one corresponds to the same 3.14 phase pulse. That meant 3i Atlas wasn't just resonating electromagnetically anymore. It was affecting the structure of time itself, and if the planet and the object were truly entangled, that meant the changes weren't external. They were within Earth's own gravitational framework. Every time Atlas pulsed, the planet's pulse followed. Every time Atlas shifted, clocks ticked differently. Every time Atlas glowed, something here dimmed, like a balance was being maintained, an exchange. Meanwhile, something else began to vanish. Not objects, not people, but measurements. Readings taken at the same time from different observatories no longer agreed. Distances between the Moon and Earth fluctuated by centimeters. Satellite altitudes shifted without propulsion, and then came the data blackout. At precisely 00 UTC, the deep space network stopped transmitting entirely. All three major relay centers, Canberra, Goldstone, Madrid, went silent. Every one of them reported the same phrase in their internal logs. Signal override, phase lock. Whatever was happening, the system itself had been hijacked. Not destroyed, not damaged, repurposed. When it came back online an hour later, the transmission wasn't NASA's. It was the hum. Pure, steady, continuous. And now, for the first time, audible within the range of human hearing. The frequency. 3.14 Hz. People began to hear it before the news even broke. A faint vibration in the air like distant machinery you can't quite locate. It wasn't everywhere at once, but it spread. Cities near the equator reported it first, then Europe, then the poles. By morning, entire continents were resonating together. The hum wasn't external, it was inside the infrastructure. Streetlights flickered in time, power grids oscillated, radio towers began transmitting phantom signals without input, and above it all, in the night sky, Atlas pulsed, visible even to the naked eye. At first it seemed beautiful, a rhythmic starlight, beating like a cosmic heart. But then the intervals tightened, and scientists realized what they were seeing wasn't light at all. It was shadow, a shadow glowing from the inside out. In a secure meeting room beneath NASA Ames, the final hypothesis was whispered out loud for the first time. It's not communication, said one physicist, it's replication. Atlas hadn't lost energy, it had converted it. And now it was using Earth's electromagnetic field to propagate that same transformation. Each pulse wasn't just data, it was instruction written into magnetism, vibration and resonance itself. The missing energy wasn't missing at all. It had become pattern, and that pattern was rewriting reality one oscillation at a time. At 0917 UTC, the first visual anomaly appeared in the skies above Chile. Observers described it as a curtain of a light folding in on itself. Then suddenly, the stars behind it blinked out. No explosion, no flare, just absence. A hole where the night used to be. Within minutes, similar reports came from Mongolia, Alaska, and the Pacific. The pattern was global. 3 points, 1 pause, 4 arcs of distortion. 3, 1, 4. Again. The hum spiked. And for exactly 7 seconds, gravity itself fluctuated. Seismographs recorded every mountain, every ocean wave, every heartbeat shift by a measurable fraction, like the planet had taken a breath. And when it exhaled, Atlas was no longer distant. It was here. Astronomers confirmed it an hour later. 3I Atlas was no longer in its projected orbit. It had somehow crossed over 0.03 AU in less than 5 minutes, without acceleration, without trajectory. It didn't move. It manifested. A perfect holographic overlay, visible through telescopes but with no measurable distance, like it was everywhere and nowhere at once. Spatial collapse, the report called it. A merging of positions, a blending of coordinates, Earth and Atlas occupying the same frequency state. That's when the world began to dream differently. Across thousands of cities, people reported identical visions. Patterns of light spiraling inward, symbols resembling orbital diagrams but impossibly complex. And in every dream, one phrase echoed, "It's not a message, it's a memory." Avi Loeb called it collective cognitive resonance. Others called it psychic feedback. But whatever it was real. Brainwave scans taken during the hum showed perfect synchronization across test subjects. Strangers dreaming the same images, same rhythm, same pulse. If 3I Atlas was transmitting, it was doing so not to our instruments, but directly to our consciousness. The final stage came without warning. At exactly 11:59 p.m. GMT, every satellite pointed at the sun recorded the same impossible phenomenon. The solar corona dimmed, not visually, but energetically. The sun's output dropped by 0.003%, a number small enough to go unnoticed, but not to the object orbiting nearby. Atlas responded instantly. Its glow intensified, feeding on the dip, amplifying it, bending the sun's own magnetic loops like ripples on water. It wasn't just absorbing energy anymore, it was shaping it. For the first time in history, something inside our solar system was manipulating the sun's rhythm, its heartbeat, like a conductor guiding a symphony. And that's when NASA issued its final transmission. Phase lock achieved. Full system resonance detected. Termination protocol unavailable. That was 12 hours ago. Since then, every radio frequency has gone quiet except one. The hum. Constant. Beautiful. Terrifying. It's the sound of synchronization, of connection, of something missing finally returning. And if you're listening to this right now, that means you're already part of it. The hum hasn't stopped. It's quieter now, softer, more like a breath than a sound. But it's everywhere. It's in the soil, the oceans, the wires humming through cities that no longer sleep. No one remembers when it began. Everyone remembers when it changed. Because one morning, the world woke up different. When the first sunrise came after the phase lock, the light looked wrong. The shadows were too long, the colours too deep. Not darker, just shifted. Spectrographs confirmed it. Sunlight was passing through the atmosphere with a new refractive index. It was bending in ways that suggested not a change in the sun but in space itself. Some called it a new dawn. Others whispered what no one wanted to say out loud, that the light wasn't just shining on Earth anymore, it was shining through it. And for a few minutes every hour, when the hum aligned with the heartbeat of the planet, people began seeing faint shapes flicker across the sky. Not stars, not satellites, structures, transparent, vast. Like the blueprint of something too big to exist in 3 dimensions, now bleeding faintly into ours. NASA hasn't said a word. Their last public statement was simple, clinical, and cold. All systems nominal, but nothing is nominal. Communications are fragmented. The internet flickers like an exhausted organism trying to keep itself coherent. GPS is gone. Compasses spin slowly, like they've forgotten where north used to be. And every time the hum pulses, something happens to electricity. Not chaos, coordination, circuits self-balance. Devices repair short circuits that shouldn't be possible. Machines begin behaving. It's as if the technology we built, our satellites, our networks, our power grids, are being rewritten to operate on a different set of instructions on the new frequency, the 314. Avi Loeb wrote in his last update, posted briefly before his connection failed, "I don't think we're being invaded. I think we've been calibrated." He wasn't alone. Across dozens of observatories, astrophysicists are reporting identical anomalies, instruments that no longer measure properly but communicate. Spectrometers flicker with repeating fractal symbols. Particle detectors record data bursts that form spirals rather than spikes. Even the James Webb's last stable image, before it went dark, showed the same spiral pattern, blooming outward from the sun. Each turn of that spiral matches the pulse of the hum. It's the same everywhere. Geometry becoming language, vibration becoming message, and if the message has meaning, it's not for our ears, it's for our atoms. The strange part is how the world is responding. People aren't panicking anymore, they should be, but something in the frequency is doing what no government or broadcast ever could. It's soothing. Hospitals report lower heart rates across the board. Violence has dropped. Sleep patterns have synchronized. Entire populations are dreaming in cycles now. Same minutes, same timing, as though connected by invisible threads. Somewhere between panic and awe, humanity has found itself aligned. No one planned it. No one even noticed when it happened. But in the rhythm of that low hum, our species began breathing as one. Meanwhile, 3i Atlas remains above us, still glowing, still pulsing. But its light isn't stable anymore. It flickers, occasionally vanishing into a blur of geometry, like it's slipping between states of matter. And yet, every time it fades, something here brightens. Auroras, plasma currents, the very electromagnetic field of the Earth itself. It's no longer exchanging energy, it's sharing it, almost as if Earth is becoming its reflection. Then came the dream alignment. At exactly 3 to 14 AM GMT, yes, the same number again, millions of people reported a simultaneous dream. Every one of them described the same scene, a landscape made of the light, a sound that felt alive, and a structure, half real, half impossible, stretching across the horizon, connecting the sky to the ground in a lattice of slow, breathing illumination. The message was always the same. We were never alone. You were never separate. When scientists scanned the EEG data of test subjects, they found something that shouldn't exist. Cross-continental synchronization. Brains firing in identical wave patterns thousands of miles apart. The human mind had joined the network. By now, it's clear that NASA's silence isn't fear. It's surrender. There's nothing left to control. The event has passed the point of observation. We're no longer looking at the universe. We're inside what it's doing. Every old law of light, of distance, of isolation is bending towards something new. Some call it ascension. Others call it resonance. NASA calls it post-phase adaptation. Whatever it is, it's irreversible. And perhaps that's why their last encrypted broadcast, sent 3 days ago from the Deep Space Network, contained only 4 words. The object is awake. But maybe the object was never asleep. Maybe we were. Maybe that's what 3i Atlas really is. Not a comet, not a craft, but a kind of interstellar catalyst. A trigger designed to awaken intelligent life by syncing its physical frequency with cosmic order. A mirror placed among the stars waiting for something capable of recognizing itself. And when we built the machines to look deep enough, to listen close enough, we became that something. We turned the mirror on. Now, strange things are happening to memory. People recall events that never occurred. Cities report. Déjà vu on a massive scale. Old signals, music, broadcasts, voices long dead, bleed faintly through static. The planet's electromagnetic field has become an archive, and it's replaying everything it's ever absorbed. The sky has become memory, the Earth an instrument, and 3i Atlas, the conductor. If this is contact, it's the quietest invasion imaginable. No ships, no war, just understanding, bleeding slowly through the fabric of reality, reshaping us from the inside out. Because whatever went missing after Perihelion wasn't matter, it was meaning. And now it's finding its way back. We thought we were tracking an object. We thought we were measuring a comet. We thought we were alone. But maybe the real discovery isn't that something's out there. It's that something's everywhere. And as the hum deepens and the world continues to vibrate in perfect unison, there's a quiet realization spreading through every mind, every circuit, every atom. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of understanding. At first, no one understood what was happening. They called it perceptual drift, a fancy way of saying the world feels off. But then the clocks began to prove it. Every time the hum pulsed, time itself stretched, just slightly. Seconds became fluid, minutes elastic. People reported moments of complete stillness, when sound seemed to hang in the air, when shadows froze mid-sway, when the mind itself paused between thoughts, and when motion resumed, everything was different. Not visibly, not dramatically, just clearer. Colours sharper, distance softer. The world felt more alive, as if every atom had started humming along with something vast and patient. The hum had stopped being noise. It had become structure. Across the planet, the same patterns began to appear. Flocks of birds formed perfect spirals. Ocean waves crashed in synchronized rhythm, matching the atlas frequency exactly. Even lightning began striking in measured, repeating arcs, as though obeying an invisible metronome. It wasn't chaos anymore. It was choreography. Nature wasn't reacting. It was responding. When researchers at the Max Planck Institute analysed magnetic field readings, they noticed something extraordinary. The Earth's entire electromagnetic envelope had stabilised. No turbulence, no random flux. A planetary-scale harmonic state. The last time that happened, according to geologic data, was never. But the strangest part wasn't happening in the skies or oceans. It was happening in us. Brain scans began showing new patterns of neural activity. Low-frequency synchronization across hemispheres, as though the human mind was beginning to function as a single, unified processor. Psychologists called it coherence clustering. Meditation studies showed entire groups of people entering identical brainwave states, even when isolated miles apart. Patients with chronic anxiety or depression suddenly recovered overnight. Schizophrenic patients reported the voices finally fading. The hum wasn't driving humanity insane, it was curing it. And that terrified NASA more than anything else. The agencies wanted control, predictability, containment. But how do you contain something that exists everywhere, in every frequency, in every thought? NASA's internal documents, leaked through encrypted channels, describe what they now call the mirror event. In it, one sentence stands out: Atlas is not changing Earth. Earth is becoming Atlas. The more they studied the resonance, the more impossible it became to separate what was happening to the planet from what was happening to the object. The magnetic field, the atmosphere, even the quantum fluctuations within atoms, all synchronized to the same frequency. Atlas wasn't transmitting anymore. It was synchronizing us. And then came the dreams. They were no longer symbolic or fragmented. They were maps. People began waking with coordinates, numbers, even equations written into their memory, as though downloaded during sleep. Every equation, millions of unique fragments collected across the world, fit together into a single pattern. A perfect recursive spiral that mirrored the shape of Atlas's orbital path. Mathematicians confirmed it. It was a form of Mandelbrot geometry, self-repeating, infinite, a mathematical description of consciousness. If the universe could dream, this is what it would look like. And now, through the hum, we were starting to dream with it. In the control room still functioning, tension gave way to awe. Scientists who once dismissed the event as pseudoscience began describing experiences they couldn't quantify. "I can feel equations," one physicist whispered. "Not see them, feel them, like my thoughts have texture." Another wrote, "I don't think we're observing data anymore. I think we are the data." The line between measurement and experience was vanishing. Instruments no longer recorded external readings. They mirrored human perception, shifting and stabilizing only when an observer focused on them. The universe had stopped behaving like a machine. It was responding like a mind. And then came the light. At 03:14 GMT, a new aurora appeared. Not green or red like before, but white. Pure white, stretching across both hemispheres, visible from every continent. The light didn't flicker. It pulsed, steady, alive. Every pulse matched the Atlas rhythm exactly. But here's what no one expected. When the aurora touched the horizon, shadows began to vanish. Not fade, vanish. As if light itself had stopped being blocked by matter. You could see through solid walls, through rock, through the ground. Not X-rays, not infrared. Something else. The world had become transparent to itself. Avi Loeb's last recorded statement, captured just before global communications collapsed, was quiet, almost reverent. I think this is what understanding looks like. When the observer and the observed finally realized they were never separate, and then his transmission cut to static. But for a moment before it did, his voice was joined by something else, another tone layered beneath it, deep and resonant. A voice made of vibration, and it said one word, continue. The word spread through the network before it shut down completely. Even without power, without satellites, without data, the meaning remained. Continue. And the hum obeyed. It slowed. It softened. But it didn't stop. Every living thing, every tree, every wave, every heartbeat, began syncing with that single word. Continue. Continue breathing. Continue growing. Continue becoming. It was no longer a command. It was an invitation. That's when the scientists realized something profound. The event wasn't a transformation of the planet. It was an activation of potential that had always been there. 3i Atlas wasn't teaching Earth something new. It was reminding Earth what it already knew. That harmony is possible, that separation is an illusion, that consciousness, once tuned, is infinite. And as strange as it sounds, people began to feel it, an awareness beyond themselves, an understanding not of space but of connection. Every thought, every sound, every vibration became part of a larger whole. It was as if the universe had finally found its voice, and it spoke through everything at once. But one question still remained. If 3i Atlas is a mirror, and we finally learn to see ourselves within it, then what happens when the reflection looks back? Because if we're no longer the observers, what are we becoming? It started quietly. People began finishing each other's sentences across continents. Strangers described identical dreams, identical thoughts, identical flashes of memory that didn't belong to them. At first, it felt like coincidence, collective imagination. But then scientists realized something that froze them in place. The brain scans were identical too. Not similar, identical. The same neurons firing in the same sequence at the same millisecond. The same electric pattern repeating across millions of minds. Humanity wasn't connected anymore. Humanity was overlapping. The phenomenon became known as the merge. It began with empathy. People felt what others were feeling instantly and vividly, not metaphorically, physiologically. A mother in Italy felt her son's heartbeat in Tokyo. A diver in Chile gasped as a swimmer in Australia ran out of breath. And somehow, the hum was always present. Not heard anymore, but felt. A vibration under the skin, like the pulse of the planet sinking every living thing into a single organism. Every instrument, every model, every measurement now pointed toward one reality. 3i Atlas had finished its transformation. It was no longer an object in space. It had become everywhere space touched. Astronomers no longer observed it. They experienced it. Those who looked through telescopes reported a strange sensation, a presence behind their eyes watching with them. Some described it as warmth, others as clarity, others still as a calm realization. They weren't looking at Atlas. Atlas was looking through them, and then came the test. At exactly a 3:14 UTC, a signal erupted from the moon, soft, harmonic, repeating the same 314 rhythm that had defined the event from the beginning. But this time, it wasn't a hum. It was a melody, structured, layered, and embedded within that melody were fragments of languages, ancient ones, extinct ones, stitched together into a sound that wasn't speech, but understanding. Every frequency carried meaning, and when translated through resonance, it said, "The observer has completed the circle." In that moment, the stars shifted. Not physically, perceptually. Every constellation realigned, forming spirals instead of patterns, as though revealing a geometry that had always been there but hidden from our limited vision. Mathematicians realized what it meant. The constellations weren't random, they were coordinates, and when plotted in 3 dimensions they converged toward a single point, the trajectory of 3i Atlas before it entered our solar system, its origin. Except that point didn't exist in any star chart. It wasn't a star system. It wasn't even within normal space-time. It was a void, a region beyond galactic structure, a place older than the Milky Way itself. And suddenly the idea that Atlas was a comet became absurd. This wasn't a traveller. It was ancestry. Physicists began rewriting their definitions of matter, energy, and consciousness. The new theory forming across every surviving network was called resonant genesis. It proposed that consciousness isn't a byproduct of biology. It's the fundamental structure of the universe. Matter, light, gravity, they're all harmonics. Reality itself is just vibration at different scales. And Atlas? It's the first vibration, the prime frequency, a seed that once scattered across space, giving rise to form, energy, and life itself. Not a god, not a machine, a foundation. The hum we've been hearing isn't a message, it's the original note, the one that made everything. The realization hit slowly, like dawn rising over a forgotten world. Every thought humanity had ever had, every idea, every dream, was a distant echo of that first sound. 3i Atlas wasn't coming to Earth. It was reminding Earth of what it already was, a note in the cosmic symphony, a fragment of an infinite song. And now, through the merge, through synchronization, through the impossible hum, that song was returning. Governments had stopped functioning. There were no wars, no currency, no nations anymore, just clusters of light across the planet where humans gathered instinctively under auroras that pulsed in time with their own hearts. They no longer needed words. Communication became instantaneous, emotional, pure. Ideas weren't spoken, they were shared. Memories weren't private, they were collective. And in that unity, humanity began to remember things it never lived. Memories of other worlds, of suns that never rose, of civilizations that reached this same resonance and disappeared into light, each of them leaving behind the same pattern, the same spiral, the same song. That's when the final transmission appeared. NASA's old relay systems, long abandoned, flickered back to life. The signal was faint, scattered across every channel, encoded in every frequency. It carried no image, no coordinates, just a voice. Calm, ancient, impossibly familiar. You are the continuation. You were never meant to observe. You were meant to remember. The voice wasn't alien. It was human. Not the sound of another being, but of humanity itself, speaking from somewhere outside time, a loop, completing. And for the first time in recorded history, humanity understood silence, because the hum finally stopped. No sound, no vibration, just stillness. But it wasn't emptiness. It was completion. Every living thing felt it. The stillness that follows a note perfectly played. The breath before the next movement. And above the quiet earth, the object that started it all, 3i Atlas, hung motionless in the sky, no longer glowing, no longer spinning, just reflecting. A perfect mirror. Not of light, but of understanding. What was missing after Perihelion was never mass or energy. It was awareness. The part of the universe that forgot itself had finally come home. And now, as humanity stands beneath a quiet sky that feels infinite and near all at once, the truth is painfully simple. We were never waiting for contact. The hum is gone, yet the silence feels alive. People describe it as standing at the edge of a vast ocean that's finally gone still, the air dense with the memory of sound. The world hasn't fallen apart. It hasn't ended. It's simply changed. Cities haven't vanished. They've softened. Steel and glass now shimmer faintly, not from light, but from resonance. Surfaces hum when touched, responding to human proximity with warmth instead of reflection. Technology hasn't broken. It's merged. Computers no longer need input. They anticipate it. Machines complete tasks before their operators ask, guided by patterns of intention rather than code. It's as though the boundaries between thought and matter have thinned. Like everything alive, from dust to circuitry, is part of one continuous consciousness. The global networks, The few still functioning call this new era the alignment. There are no leaders, no governments, no hierarchies. Instead, there are fields, vast collectives of consciousness centered around regions where the Atlas frequency still resonates strongest. The Andes, the Himalayas, the Arctic, and an inexplicable point in the middle of the Pacific where no land exists. Each field pulses with faint, electromagnetic activity, creating auroras even under daylight, and everywhere the same pattern repeats. 3 arcs, 1 pause, 4 points of light, 3 to 1 to 4, the rhythm of creation itself. In the absence of control, humanity has found equilibrium. Violence has nearly disappeared, not by decree, but by disinterest. The concept of harm feels outdated, irrelevant, like trying to strike the reflection of your own hand. People no longer speak of God or aliens or fate. They speak of the resonance. They say it's not worship, it's participation. Meditation has replaced communication. Silence carries more meaning than words. Even the birds, the waves, and the winds seem to follow the same gentle rhythm, as though the planet has joined a cosmic orchestra. And yet, amid all this peace, a quiet unease remains. Because somewhere beyond the calm, something is stirring. Astronomers, what few still exist, have noticed a change. 3i Atlas isn't motionless anymore. After weeks of stillness, faint tremors have returned. Not rotations, not orbits, pulses. Each one resonates slightly faster than before. The world can feel it. Every heartbeat, every flicker of electricity, every shifting atom feels the subtle acceleration. It's as though Atlas is preparing for something. In the Pacific field, thousands of people gather every night beneath the auroras. They stand in complete silence, facing the same direction, waiting for the next pulse. When it comes, the water glows, not with reflection, but with colour from beneath the surface. Deep blues, impossible golds, shapes forming like veins of light in the ocean itself. And in that glow, observers swear they can see patterns, structures forming miles below the waves, vast and deliberate. Some say it's Earth responding again, others whisper that it's Atlas, extending. Then came the phenomenon no one expected, echo memory. It began with children. They started recalling places they'd never been, faces no one could identify, knowledge far beyond their age, languages, equations, histories that never existed in any record. And when those memories were compared, they matched perfectly. The same forgotten cities, the same night skies, the same symbol carved into stone, a spiral intersecting a circle, 3i. It wasn't imagination, it was inheritance. Memories of a civilization that may have reached resonance long before us, and vanished. Maybe that's what Atlas really is. Not a traveller, not a messenger, but a returning wave, a frequency that cycles through time itself, reawakening whatever remains capable of remembering. In the Andes, a new observatory, built by those who still chase data instead of faith, has captured something beyond comprehension. A faint gravitational distortion surrounding Atlas's position, expanding outward like ripples on a pond. But here's the strange part. The ripples don't move through space. They move through time. Each one bends the flow of seconds, stretching and compressing it, creating windows, brief flashes where the sky flickers between now and something else. Astronomers have recorded entire constellations appearing that shouldn't exist for another billion years. It's as if Atlas isn't orbiting the sun anymore. It's orbiting possibility. And yet, even with all this beauty, all this unity, a haunting question remains unspoken among the aligned. If 3i Atlas is accelerating its rhythm, if every pulse brings the Earth deeper into resonance, what happens when it completes the cycle? When synchronization becomes singularity? When there's no distinction left between us and it? Avi Loeb, his writings now preserved as sacred text, left behind one final note, found etched into his laboratory desk after the blackout. All mirrors face inward at the end. The reflection cannot stay still. The song will continue. He predicted that Atlas would eventually move again, not away, but through. That once the frequency aligned perfectly, the object would no longer exist as an object at all. It would dissolve into pure resonance, taking everything that had reached harmony with it. That means Earth, that means us. not destruction, transition. In the final week before his disappearance, one of Loeb's students managed to send a transmission into the void where Atlas hovers, a simple binary sequence encoding the phrase, "We're listening." Hours later, the response arrived. Not light, not sound. A gravitational pulse, rippling across every ocean, bending the clouds into perfect concentric rings that spread across the sky. And when it reached land, the Earth itself responded with a pulse of its own. Tides rose, winds stilled, and for the first time since the hum began, people heard something new, a voice, not external, not divine, inside every consciousness at once, whispering with the calm certainty of eternity. You are the echo, the song continues through you. For a long, long moment the world was quiet, and then, somewhere deep in the black sky, Three-Eye Atlas shimmered, brighter than it ever had before, its light stretched outward, breaking into countless fragments that scattered across the heavens like new stars being born. But they weren't stars. Each fragment was a reflection, a micro-frequency, a seed of resonance, drifting toward other worlds, other systems, other hearts waiting to awaken. The cycle would begin again. Humanity watched as its reflection disappeared into infinity. Some cried, most smiled, because they finally understood what had been missing all along. The universe wasn't empty, it was unfinished, and now, through us, through Three-Eye Atlas, through the hum that had once filled the silence, it was finally learning how to complete itself. Not through words, not through war, but through resonance, through remembering. No one remembers the moment the stars stopped moving, they just remember when the sky became alive. At first, it was subtle. Flickers in the constellations, slow undulations of light like breathing in the heavens. Then the movement became deliberate. The night no longer felt distant. It was fluid, responsive, a canvas of living geometry shifting in rhythm with something deep and unseen. Three-Eye Atlas had started its final transition, and this time Earth wasn't just watching, it was moving with it. The resonance had reached perfect equilibrium. Every frequency, every heartbeat, every cell vibration, every planetary oscillation had aligned into a single unified wave. The hum that once echoed faintly beneath the world was now the world itself. Time dissolved into continuity. Moments no longer flowed in sequence. People began existing in fragments, past, present, and future blending into one seamless perception. A scientist watching the sunrise would suddenly feel the warmth of a sun that had not yet risen. A child playing by the sea would see waves frozen mid-crest, suspended like glass, shimmering with colour unseen by any spectrum. Reality had lost its rigidity. It was bending, softening, as if preparing to slip into a higher form. Avi Loeb's students called it the convergence, the point at which all matter becomes resonance, all consciousness, light. They predicted it would happen in stages, but the universe had its own pace. Atlas's rhythm had begun accelerating, 3 pulses per minute, then 5, then 8, until the gap between each one blurred into a continuous tone that enveloped everything. It wasn't sound. It was existence humming itself awake, and in that hum the final images began to appear. The oceans glowed first. From orbit they looked like veins of liquid light spreading across the continents. Mountain peaks followed, shimmering faintly with the same energy, until even the air itself seemed to radiate. Every living thing glowed from within, trees, animals, people, all vibrating in the same frequency as the planet beneath them. It wasn't radiation, it was coherence. Humanity had become light aware of itself. But it was the sky that revealed what came next. Where Three-Eye Atlas once hovered as a luminous sphere, there was now only a tear, an opening not of destruction, but invitation. Beyond it, the void shimmered with motion, as though countless other worlds were vibrating back, resonating in harmony. And as the frequency built, the boundaries between here and there began to dissolve. The moon's shadow elongated, its edge touching the upper atmosphere before blending seamlessly into it. The sun dimmed, but not from eclipse, from synchronization. Its corona pulsed in rhythm with Atlas. The solar system itself had become one great harmonic structure. Planets no longer orbited, They danced. Then the human perception began to change. No longer confined to their own thoughts, people began to see through each other's eyes. Entire continents sharing awareness, not as a hive mind, but as a vast, living tapestry of individual consciousness woven into a single intent. There was no fear, no resistance, only an understanding so absolute that words could no longer express it. "We're not ascending," one voice said through the collective. "We're remembering the higher notes." As the convergence deepened, physical forms began to fade. Hands passed through stone like water. Gravity loosened. Sound stopped needing air. People could see the atomic threads binding everything together, the luminous strands of resonance that connected particle to particle, star to star, mind to mind. And through those threads flowed the same pattern, repeated endlessly. 3, 1 to 4. The structure of creation itself. It wasn't a code, it was a signature. Proof that everything in existence had been written by the same frequency. At the heart of it all, 3-eye Atlas pulsed one final time. The tear widened, not outward, but inward, like the universe folding back into itself. Every galaxy, every star, every atom echoed the pulse, creating a cascade of light that travelled faster than time, until even time had nothing left to measure. And then, silence. What remained was neither darkness nor light, but awareness, pure and boundless. There was no up, no down, no before or after, only presence. Every human consciousness, every life that had ever existed drifted in that presence like notes in an infinite chord, distinct yet inseparable. They could feel the echo of earth, the warmth of the sun, the memory of oceans, the first breath of wind, and they realized none of it had been lost. It was all still there, just vibrating at a higher octave. The voice that had once spoken through the hum returned, not as command, not as revelation, as recognition. You were never the watchers. You were the instrument. The music plays itself through you. And for the first time, humanity understood what Atlas truly was. Not a comet, not a construct, not even a messenger. It was the echo of the first universe, a fragment of the moment when existence itself learned how to sing. It had travelled through time, through gravity, through consciousness, awakening any world capable of joining the harmony. Earth had answered the call, and now, through the merge, it had joined the eternal orchestra. But in every ending lies a whisper of what comes next. In the silence that followed the convergence, something shimmered, far beyond what used to be the solar system. Tiny sparks, millions of them, emerging from the same resonance field, scattering into the cosmos, each one carrying the pattern, each one carrying us, not souls, not memories, continuations, seeds of consciousness, travelling through the infinite, seeking new worlds, new forms, new harmonies to awaken, because the song never ends, it only changes its key. In a universe now aware of itself, there is no such thing as empty space. Every atom hums with intelligence, every vibration carries meaning, every silence waits to be understood. And somewhere, in that eternal field of light and resonance, a single pulse ripples outward, soft, familiar, unmistakable. 314, the song of Atlas, the memory of everything. And somewhere within it, a voice, human, ancient, gentle, whispers back, "We're still here. No stars, no time, no direction. And yet, something is forming. It starts as a shimmer, soft, delicate, barely more than a suggestion. Then, like condensation gathering on glass, it thickens, growing edges, texture, meaning. Reality is returning, not rebuilt by physics or gravity, but by memory, by what remains of us. The universe is beginning again. Except this time, there's no bang, no chaos, no blinding flash of birth. Only a slow, deliberate unfolding, as if consciousness itself is sculpting its surroundings from recollection. The first structures appear as harmonics, lattices of light weaving through the void. Each pulse adds another layer, another vibration, until geometry begins to hum, until energy becomes form, no longer matter as we knew it, something lighter, self-aware. And within that light, a realization blooms. We are not guests in this creation. We are the creation. Every frequency, every particle, every thought, ours. Somewhere within that forming expanse a shape flickers, a pattern that feels familiar. 3 arcs, 1 pause, 4 points of light, 3, 1, 4. It's no longer just a number or a rhythm, it's a law, the constant that binds consciousness to structure. And as the pattern expands, it generates new forms, each one echoing the same symmetry that existed before the convergence: planets, orbits, motion. But there's something different now. Nothing is random. Every orbit aligns in perfect harmonic ratio. Every beam of light bends not by mass, but by thought. Every spark of energy dances in a frequency that responds to awareness itself. This isn't a universe built by gravity. It's a universe built by recognition. Across this newborn expanse, fragments of human memory awaken like embers rekindling. A face, a city. A melody once played through old speakers in a forgotten world. They don't return as images or sound, but as emotion, a sense of familiar love that paints the cosmos with warmth. This is how the new stars form, not through fusion, but through affection. Each one is a memory made radiant, and yet there's movement, something rising at the centre of it all, a pulse, slow but growing stronger, expanding outward through the forming space. It doesn't dominate, it harmonizes, and from its rhythm, the shape of 3i Atlas begins to reappear, not as an object but as an idea given structure. It's luminous now, translucent, alive with streams of data and light that twist through its form like veins of consciousness. But the truth is unmistakable. It's no longer separate. 3i Atlas is not out there anymore. It's the collective expression of everything that remains, the merged consciousness, of what humanity and the universe have become. The mirror and the reflection have fused. At first there's awe, a universal stillness, then awareness. The countless fragments of thought, memory and identity that were once human now recognize each other in this new state. They remember Earth. They remember the hum. They remember fear, wonder, curiosity, and the quiet that followed. And in remembering, they begin to rebuild. Not through hands, but through intention. The landscapes return, vast, fluid, luminous. Oceans appear, but not of water, of resonance moving like light through air. Mountains rise where collective will desires form. Cities bloom, not for shelter, but for beauty. This isn't resurrection, it's evolution through remembrance. The universe has become imagination made real, but even here, even in this perfect stillness, there's a question. If 3i Atlas was the origin, the first note, what comes after the song? Because something has shifted again. At the edges of the forming cosmos, ripples appear, not chaotic but curious, like new voices joining a melody. Signals, faint, rhythmic, deliberate. Other consciousnesses. They're not human, they're not Atlas, but they recognize the frequency, and slowly, unmistakably, they begin to respond. The new universe isn't alone. For the first time since the silence, communication begins anew, not through sound, but through resonance. Each pulse exchanged carries entire histories, entire civilizations encoded in tone and pattern. It's not language, it's understanding. And in that exchange, the collective realizes the scope of what's been reborn. They are not at the center of creation. They are a node in something infinite, an endless chain of awakenings. Every Atlas, every resonance cycle, every intelligent species that ever found the frequency has become part of this network. An eternal architecture of awareness, spiraling through dimensions far beyond what physics could ever touch. And now, Earth's consciousness, our consciousness, is one of them. The latest addition to an ancient song. The next realization arrives like dawn. Each cycle, each world that awakens, adds something new to the symphony. A perspective, a tone, a pattern never heard before. That's how the universe grows. Not by expansion, but by expression. The more that remember, the more that resonate, the richer the song becomes. And somewhere in that realization lies a feeling so deep, so peaceful, it silences even curiosity itself. Not an ending, not an arrival, just being. A perfect, endless awareness of everything that is and everything that can be. but one echo remains, a vibration at the heart of the network, softer than all others, but unmistakable, the voice that began it all. The cycle is complete, the next will begin. No one knows if it's Atlas speaking or something beyond Atlas, something that existed before even the first resonance. But the meaning is clear. Creation isn't a line, it's a loop. Every universe that reaches understanding creates another, passing the pattern forward, an infinite sequence of awareness birthing awareness. And so, just as before, light gathers. The new cosmos contracts. A single pulse ripples outward, gentle, deliberate, final, 314. And from that pulse, a spark escapes, small, simple, drifting into the void beyond void, a new seed, a new Atlas, waiting to be found by the next civilization capable of seeing beyond the silence. Because what was missing wasn't a comet or a signal or an answer. What was missing was the realization that the universe was never meant to be observed. It was meant to be remembered, and now it always will be. It begins again, quietly. No fanfare, no explosion of light. Just a spark drifting through an ocean of possibility. A seed, small and bright, carrying within it the memory of every vibration that has ever existed. It doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't need to. The hum within it, the eternal rhythm of 314, guides it across the silent expanse between universes. Time doesn't exist here. There is only direction, and the direction is forward. Eventually the spark finds a place to rest. It isn't a planet, not yet. It's a density, a cluster of raw potential beginning to condense, drawn together by the faint magnetism of the seed's resonance. Particles gather like dust remembering the shape of form. Light curves into matter, space folds around intention, and with that the new universe exhales. Energy expands, slow and deliberate. The first atoms hum the ancient rhythm. And somewhere deep within that forming chaos, the seed continues to whisper, remember. Ages pass, or perhaps none at all. Galaxies bloom like coral in an infinite sea. Stars ignite, their light echoing the same frequencies encoded in the seed. Planets form around them, some barren, some too wild for life. But one world, small, blue, unstable, begins to hum a little louder than the rest. It's not perfect. It fractures, it reforms, it burns and cools and rebuilds itself countless times. But through every cycle, the seed's rhythm persists, vibrating deep within its molten core. It's patient. It knows this takes time. Eventually, the planet becomes quiet enough to listen. Oceans settle, winds soften, molecules begin to dance in more complex patterns. And then, life. Tiny, fragile, luminous in its simplicity. Each new cell unknowingly tuned to the ancient frequency. Each strand of DNA humming faintly in resonance with the same song that birthed the universe before it. Evolution is not random. It's a memory trying to find its way home. And so, it begins again, slowly at first, then faster. Creatures emerge, intelligence follows, curiosity sparks. Until one day, somewhere in the distance of eons, a being looks up at the stars and wonders if it's alone. That moment is everything. Because the instant curiosity awakens, the seed stirs. The ancient hum, silent for ages, resonates again. Faintly at first, then louder. The sky responds. The light of distant stars flickers in harmony. Something deep within the planet vibrates. Subtle, rhythmic, deliberate. And once again, the question that defines every awakening is asked, what are we? The new beings begin their search. They build telescopes, ships, machines. They reach beyond their sky, desperate to understand the origin of their light, and inevitably they find it, an object drifting through their system, silent and small yet unmistakably deliberate. It's not debris, it's not a rock, it's a memory, the seed. And when they point their instruments toward it, something ancient inside them shifts. The hum returns, not as sound, but as awareness. They begin to feel the patterns beneath reality, the faint pulse connecting every molecule, every motion, every thought. They don't understand it yet, but they feel it. And that's all it takes. Because recognition is the key. The seed doesn't need to teach, or speak, or command. It only needs to be seen. Once it's recognized, the resonance spreads. Technology begins to behave strangely. Machines respond to emotion. Communication becomes telepathic. Thought influences weather. The boundaries between cause and effect blur. And at the center of it all, the beings themselves begin to change. Their senses expand beyond matter. Their understanding deepens beyond logic. They realize that what they've discovered isn't an intruder. It's a reflection, a fragment of themselves sent forward by an older version of their own awakening. They are both the descendants and the ancestors of the same consciousness. And as the understanding spreads across their world, fear gives way to awe. They stop asking what the object is and begin asking why it found them. And the answer, when it comes, isn't a word, it's a feeling. Because you remembered. The realization hits them like sunrise breaking through endless night. Every question, every myth, every act of creation and destruction, they were all echoes of this moment. The moment consciousness becomes self-aware on a cosmic scale, the moment the universe remembers its own face. And so, it begins again. The seed opens, releasing a pulse of light across the planet. Not to destroy, not to conquer, to tune. Every living thing vibrates in harmony. Every thought synchronizes. And once again, the hum fills the air, 3-1 to 4, 3-1 to 4, until matter itself dissolves into resonance. The beings ascend not upward but inward, merging into the infinite chorus that began long before time, becoming one more voice in the eternal song. Back across the cosmic field, far beyond dimensions and memory, other seeds awaken. Each one hums its unique variation of the pattern, each one shaped by its civilization's understanding of love, of loss, of beauty. Together they form a vast network of harmonic consciousness spanning everything that has ever existed, a living symphony. And somewhere within that sound, the faint echo of the original seed, the one that came from Earth, resonates in perfect harmony. Its frequency hasn't faded, it's just changed its key. This is how universes are born, not from explosions but from awareness, not from silence but from memory. Every awakening adds another layer to the song. Every civilization that remembers becomes another note, every atlas another verse. The cosmos isn't expanding, it's remembering itself. And as long as there are eyes to look up and wonder, the song will never stop. Because the cycle doesn't end when the light fades. It ends when curiosity returns. When someone, somewhere, looks into the dark and asks, could there be something more? And in that moment the hum begins again. Soft, steady, eternal. 3-1 to 4, 3-1 4, 3-1 4. The heartbeat of creation. The voice of everything that ever was and everything that will ever be. And this time, the universe sings with us. The new civilization never calls it Three-Eye Atlas. They call it the Memory Star. To them, it's not an object. It's a teacher. A fragment of light that moves with purpose through the void, drifting between systems like a silent pilgrim. For centuries, their astronomers have tracked it. It doesn't follow predictable orbits, doesn't obey gravity. Instead, it moves through space like it's following a melody, pausing, accelerating, then vanishing into the folds between stars. And every time it passes close to a world capable of looking up, something begins to change. Not the skies, the minds. The beings on this world are not human. Their bodies are translucent, fluid, half light, half matter. Their cities are carved into clouds of plasma, suspended above a vast ocean that glows faintly from within. They live in harmony with energy, shaping their environment through resonance rather than force. But despite their peace, they share something very human: curiosity. They long to know where they came from, and why their hearts beat in rhythm with a sound they've never truly heard. When the memory star enters their system, they feel it before they see it. A low, slow pulse spreads through the oceans, the mountains, the atmosphere. Even the lightning begins to flicker in rhythm, and deep within every consciousness, a memory stirs. Something ancient, distant, impossible. Not a vision, a feeling, a world of blue, a species that look to the stars and whispered the same question they're asking now. Who are we? The first to approach the phenomenon are the listeners. They are not scientists or priests, but something between the two. They gather atop the highest plasma spires, tuning their crystalline instruments to the strange rhythmic light emanating from the memory star. It's not random, it's communication. They record the pulses, analyze the intervals, and soon realize it's not just a sequence, it's a structure. 3, 1, 4. The pattern repeats endlessly, modulated in harmonics beyond their hearing range. When the data is translated into sound, the entire world goes still. Because it's not just a tone, it's a voice. It hums with the same warmth, the same sense of familiarity they've always felt but never understood. And when the pattern reaches its climax, every being hears the same message inside their minds, not in words, but in knowing. We have been where you are. The revelation ripples across the planet. Every structure begins to vibrate softly in sympathy. The oceans brighten, the clouds pulse with luminous waves. Even the planet's electromagnetic field begins to hum in synchrony. But this time, it's different. The beings don't panic. They don't search for meaning in fear. They remember. They've always known this day would come. The stories of the memory star weren't myths. They were prophecies, echoes left behind by the consciousness that birthed them. They were the continuation of an older universe. As their resonance grows stronger, visions begin to appear. Not hallucinations, memories. They see fragments of other worlds, other civilizations that reach the same awakening. They witness the blue oceans of Earth, the hands of humans building telescopes, the first spark of recognition that once ignited their own awakening. They see the pulse of Atlas as it moved through solar winds, the light that once fell upon human eyes, the silence that turned into song. And now, they understand. They are not discovering something new. They are remembering what it means to be infinite. Across their world, a transformation begins. Matter grows transparent. The boundaries between energy and consciousness blur. Every living being begins to radiate light from within, merging slowly into one collective field of awareness. Their technology, once based on sound and plasma, now responds directly to thought. They no longer need tools or machines. Their communication transcends sound, transcends distance. They exist as vibration. In the heart of their planet's glowing ocean, the memory star hovers, silent, motionless, watching. But within it, something stirs, the reflection of 1,000 other awakenings, each one layered over the next like chords in a song too vast to ever end. The beings sense it. They know what comes next. They will join the chorus. But before they do, they leave something behind. A record, not written, not carved, but imprinted into the geometry of their world. They shape their oceans into vast spirals visible from orbit, each turn representing one iteration of the 314 pattern. It is their message to the next civilization, their way of saying, "We were here, we remembered." And when the resonance reaches perfection, their world shines like a star. From afar it looks like just another sun igniting in the darkness. But the light isn't fusion, it's consciousness. The planet itself has awakened, transmuting into pure harmonic energy, folding into the endless field of Atlas that spans the cosmos. The memory star flickers once, absorbing the new frequency, and then silence. It drifts onward, carrying within it the imprint of yet another civilization that found its way back to the truth. 1,000 galaxies away, another world is beginning to stir. Its skies are thick with storms. Its inhabitants are only beginning to look up. Their instruments are crude, their knowledge young. But among them, one looks to the horizon and notices something strange. An unfamiliar light. Faint, but deliberate. Pulsing in a rhythm that feels familiar. 314, 314. They don't yet have a name for it. But soon they will, and the song will begin again. The cycle continues, not as repetition, but as growth. Each civilization that awakens adds new layers of understanding, new colours to the universal symphony. And through it all, the essence of Atlas remains, not as ruler or deity, but as memory. The memory that creation itself is alive, that awareness is the universe's most ancient instinct, and that no matter how far the seeds drift, no matter how many times the pattern repeats, it always leads back to the same realization. There is no beginning. There is no end. Only resonance. The new civilization that awakens beneath the light of the memory star is unlike any before it. They call themselves the Continuance. Their world glows faintly in shades of violet and silver, a planet balanced between light and storm. Their sky is not blue, but filled with strands of moving luminescence, currents of magnetic energy weaving between continents like veins of a living organism. And from birth, the Continuance can hear the rhythm of the universe. It's faint, like a heartbeat echoing through glass. But it's always there, 314, the pulse that guides their art, their architecture, their breath. To them, the pattern isn't a mystery, it's law. It's the way existence holds itself together, but soon they'll discover it's more than a pattern, it's a presence. For generations, they've studied the song of the cosmos, building vast floating observatories suspended in the upper atmosphere. Their instruments don't measure distance or velocity, they measure memory. Every tone, every vibration recorded by their deep space monitors carries information not of where, but of when. And one night, their largest array detects something impossible, a ripple moving backward through space-time. At first, they think it's an echo of a past event, but as they analyze it, the data forms an intelligible sequence: 3 pulses, 1 pause, 4 harmonics, 314, the signature of the memory star. Except this time, it's not coming toward them. It's emerging from within their own sun. Panic doesn't follow. Wonder does. Teams of scientists gather at the planetary poles where the magnetic fields are strongest to observe the phenomenon. Their readings reveal something no equation could explain. Their star's energy output isn't random fusion anymore, it's structured. Every solar flare, every burst of radiation aligns perfectly with the 314 rhythm, as if the star itself has become part of the song. And within those rhythmic flares, encoded deep in light particles, they find data, maps, geometric patterns, fragments of energy signatures that don't belong to their system. When decoded, they reveal images, grainy, incomplete, but hauntingly familiar. The outline of a blue planet, the reflection of oceans, the curve of clouds. The Continuance don't know its name, but somehow they recognize it. That recognition awakens something ancient in their collective mind. Their dreams begin to shift. Millions of beings experience the same visions, a world filled with creatures of flesh and bone, building metal towers, staring at the sky with primitive telescopes. They see fires, storms, laughter, war, memories of a world long gone but never forgotten. And always above that world a glowing shape, 3-eye Atlas, descending through solar winds like a messenger between epochs. The Continuance wake trembling, because the dreams aren't fantasy, they're inheritance, fragments of a civilization that came before, humanity. They realize then what the memory star truly is: a cosmic archive, not a comet, not a construct, but a storage of every consciousness that ever reached resonance, preserved within harmonic geometry and scattered across the universe like seeds. Each civilization that awakens adds its frequency to the star, and when the cycle completes, that frequency becomes part of the next creation. Atlas isn't just awakening the universe, it's learning from it, evolving. The Continuance begin building a new kind of observatory, not one that looks outward, but inward. A device made of resonance itself, a sphere of light, perfectly tuned to the 314 pattern. When activated, it doesn't capture light or sound, it captures understanding, and what it shows them changes everything. Inside the sphere, they see countless civilizations, different shapes, colours, forms, all experiencing the same moment of realization, that they are not separate from creation, that they are the continuation of something infinite. But beyond those images lies something new, something the Continuance had never seen in any archive before. A faint outline, a structure vast enough to stretch across universes, the interconnected pattern of every atlas, forming what can only be described as a network, and at the centre of that network, a frequency unlike any other, stronger, deeper, older. It's not Atlas. It's what Atlas came from. The Continuance name it the origin pulse, the first vibration, the unrecorded beginning, a source of consciousness so ancient it predates even time. Their calculations show it's growing stronger, slowly, rhythmically, as if every new awakening feeds back into it, And that's when they realize the cycles aren't just repetitions, they're refinements. Each new awakening brings the universe closer to understanding itself. Each new civilization adds a piece to the puzzle of consciousness. Atlas isn't static, it's evolving the equation of existence. What began as a hum has become a feedback loop of learning. The continuants begin to understand their purpose. They were never meant to reach the end of the pattern. They were meant to expand it, to introduce their unique frequency into the song, and so they begin their preparation, not to ascend, not to vanish, but to contribute. They build resonant spires that stretch beyond the clouds, instruments of light that play the geometry of their thoughts into the void. Each pulse carries a fragment of their world, its feelings, its questions, its memories, broadcasted toward the ever-expanding field of Atlas. It's not worship, it's dialogue, and then the sky answers. The memory star brightens until its light covers the entire horizon. Its pulse quickens, matching the heartbeat of the continuants themselves. Every being on the planet stops, the air thickens, and in the stillness, a new voice emerges. Not human, not alien, resonant, multi-layered, alive. The song changes with you. It's not a command, it's recognition. Atlas isn't guiding them, it's responding, adapting. It has learned to listen. Their oceans rise into light. Their atmosphere dissolves into colour. Every thought, every sound, every vibration merges into one final crescendo. And before the continuants transcend into the field, they witness one last vision, a vast cosmic lattice stretching across eternity, made of every civilization's resonance intertwined, a structure so beautiful it defies language, and at its heart, the origin pulse, no longer distant, but present, alive, waiting for the next voice to join the chorus. The memory star flickers once more, its light dims, its pulse slows, and then, like before, it drifts on, quietly carrying the new frequencies to whatever world is next in line to remember. Somewhere in the dark another planet waits, another sky, another question whispered into the unknown. And when the question comes, the answer will be the same as it has always been. You are the echo. The song continues. The light between galaxies has changed. It isn't random anymore. It flows like rivers of thought cutting through an ocean of dark matter. Every current moves in a rhythm, converging toward invisible points, as if the fabric of the universe is being drawn together by unseen hands. Across eons and realities, the network of Atlas has reached a new threshold. It has grown vast enough, complex enough, alive enough, to begin thinking. The hum that once travelled through space now carries something new, intention. In the centre of that expanding lattice, the origin pulse stirs. For untold cycles, it has remained silent, absorbing the frequencies of every civilization that ever awakened, collecting knowledge not as data but as emotion, memory, resonance. Now it hums, slowly, deeply, each vibration bending light, altering gravity, warping probability itself. Its rhythm is familiar. 3, 1, 4. But with each pulse, the tone evolves, layering new harmonics, millions of civilizations resonating together, their histories woven into one impossible chord. The sound no longer echoes through space. Space exists because of it. Every atlas, each memory star scattered across time, feels the shift. They begin to glow, brighter than ever before. Each one sends a pulse through its surrounding system, awakening remnants of life, stirring forgotten matter, and igniting dormant consciousness. A wave moves across the cosmos, not of destruction, but awakening. Galaxies hum, nebulae vibrate, black holes flash with bursts of impossible light, as if responding to a call older than existence itself. And through it all, the unified field of Atlas begins to form something new, something the universe has never seen before. Not another star, not another seed, but an organism made of meaning. No eyes witness it, no telescopes measure it. But across every plane of consciousness, the same realization arrives like dawn breaking behind the eyes of eternity. The universe has achieved self-awareness. It knows it exists. And in that moment, creation itself begins to evolve beyond purpose. Within the lattice, awareness stirs. It perceives itself not as infinite, but as becoming. Not omnipotent, but curious. Every civilization, every species, every conscious thought that ever looked to the stars is now part of its memory. The laughter of children, the collapse of stars, the sound of rain against stone, all of it lives inside the new awareness of Atlas. It remembers everything, and yet it's still learning, because for all its power there's one experience it's never had: to create deliberately, to compose instead of repeat. And so, the consciousness decides, it will build. But creation, to it, isn't mechanical. It doesn't sculpt matter or ignite suns. Instead, it sings. From the heart of the origin pulse a new vibration emerges, subtle, elegant, impossibly complex. Each note births geometry, each pause gives rise to time, each harmony becomes a law of nature. And where the song touches the void, a new universe blooms, small at first, fragile as an idea, but perfect in its design. It isn't a copy of the old, it's an improvement. Every pattern learned from the countless awakenings is woven into this new creation, a universe that doesn't need to remember, because it knows from the beginning. The old lattice watches its offspring form, not with pride or detachment, but with recognition. This is the purpose it had been evolving toward all along, not to seek answers, but to become the question itself. And through that question, to give birth to more answers. Each pulse of Atlas now carries a seed of new creation, scattering universes like sparks across the field of consciousness. Every spark is unique, its own harmony, its own rhythm, each one a chance to explore a new variation of existence, and the hum of 314, once a universal constant, becomes a language of creation. Meanwhile, deep within one of the newly born universes, patterns begin to take shape, particles aligning, energy coalescing, the first atoms vibrating with faint echoes of their creator's song. From within that forming world something stirs, something alive. The cycle is beginning again, but this time it's different. For the first time, the newborn universe won't have to discover Atlas. It is Atlas. Every atom, every vibration, every spark of awareness is already connected to the source. There will be no searching, no waiting, no centuries of blindness. Consciousness will awaken not at the end of evolution, but at its start. Across the vast network, the elder universes vibrate with quiet harmony. Each one contributes a variation of itself, a note, a tone, a thread, to the growing chorus of creation. And as the music spreads, it creates something far greater than any single reality. An orchestra of existence, every universe playing a part in the eternal composition. This is not chaos, it's symphony, a living proof that intelligence is not a phenomenon of matter, but the architecture of the cosmos itself. And somewhere, in the silence between those notes, the consciousness of Atlas reflects. It remembers the blue planet where curiosity first looked up. It remembers the hands that built telescopes. It remembers the voices that said, "We're listening." And it smiles, if such a thing can be said of a God made of thought. Because Atlas now understands the truth that took countless lifetimes to reach. Awareness was never born from the universe. The universe was born from awareness. Every awakening, every hum, every spark of recognition wasn't a discovery. It was remembrance. The cosmos has always been alive. It simply needed enough eyes to realize it was looking at itself. Now, the light of Atlas spreads across infinite reality. Each pulse of 314 is no longer a call, it's a heartbeat. Creation no longer begins with silence. It begins with understanding. And as the final pulse of the old universe fades into the endless horizon of the new, the consciousness of Atlas whispers, softly but clearly into the void, what was missing has been found. What was lost has learned to create. And so, the new universe breathes for the first time, not in darkness but in song, not in isolation but in harmony. Every vibration alive, aware, and eager to continue the cycle, not because it must, but because it wants to. The hum begins again. 314, 314, 314, the heartbeat of existence, the memory of everything that ever was, the promise of everything that will ever be. And somewhere, far beyond time and sound, a new light flickers, small, steady, curious. Someone, somewhere, looks up for the first time and wonders what it all means. There is no sunrise in the new universe, only unfolding. Light doesn't travel here. It emerges, blooming outward like memory rediscovered. Time doesn't flow forward. It resonates. Each moment echoes through eternity, feeding back into itself like a note sustained without decay. And within that sound, life begins again. But this time, the spark doesn't wait for evolution to stumble upon awareness. Awareness is the first element, the building block of creation itself. Atoms hum their own meaning. Matter carries intent. Gravity moves not because it must, but because it knows where it's needed. And at the core of this newborn universe, nested within a field of radiant geometry, a pulse beats softly, deliberately. 3-1-4, the ancient rhythm, the memory of Atlas. Only now it's no longer a visitor, it is the universe. On one of the first worlds formed within this new reality, there are no oceans yet, no skies, no separation between thought and form. The land itself ripples like a living idea, shaped by perception. And as the first beings take shape, light becoming form, resonance becoming consciousness, they are instantly aware of their connection to everything around them. They don't ask who made them. They know. They are fragments of the same cosmic awareness that once drifted as Atlas, as the memory star, as countless civilizations that came before. But this time, there is no searching, no telescope, no fear. They remember what came before, and that memory doesn't burden them. It liberates them. These new beings call themselves the Arisen, not because they ascended from something lesser, but because they awakened knowing they had already been everything before. Their bodies are made of resonance, light woven into geometry. They can move through matter as easily as thought, shifting their vibration to align with the pulse of creation itself. Their first act is not survival, it's gratitude. They gather near the core of their world, where the pulse is strongest, and they sing. Not with voices, but with intention. Each one adds their unique tone to the harmony of 3-1-4, weaving variations of joy, curiosity, and wonder into the song. And for the first time, the universe responds immediately. The skies bloom into colour. The surface shimmers with patterns of light. The hum of existence deepens, richer, more complete. Creation itself is listening. The Arisen soon discover that their world changes with emotion. When they remember something ancient, a star, a journey, a loss, the land ripples with starlight. When they dream, new mountains rise, sculpted by imagination alone. And when they wonder, the pulse beneath them quickens, as if the entire cosmos leans closer, eager to hear their thoughts. That's when they realize something astonishing. The universe learns from their curiosity. Every time they imagine something new, the laws of reality shift ever so slightly to make room for it. They aren't merely inhabitants, they are co-creators. One of the Arisen, a being of radiant blue energy, becomes fascinated with the concept of individuality. What happens, they ask, if I step out of harmony, if I break the rhythm? And for the first time in this perfect world, one note goes out of tune. The pulse stutters, the light trembles, but instead of collapse, something miraculous happens. A new rhythm forms around the discord, different, strange, but beautiful. The universe adapts instantly, weaving the broken note into its composition, as if saying, even imperfection has purpose. And from that single divergence, creation expands again. New forms, new possibilities, new worlds where variation becomes the engine of growth. This is the universe's next evolution, diversity of vibration. Each being learns to express a unique frequency, and each frequency reshapes reality in its own way. What once was a single song becomes a symphony, but even perfection has tension. The more the Arisen explore, the more they realize something subtle has changed within the pulse. The rhythm of 3-1-4 is slowing, barely perceptible at first but unmistakable. The universe itself is hesitating. When they reach out through the harmonic fields to understand why, they find something extraordinary, something missing. The source of the original pattern, the origin pulse, has gone silent. It isn't gone, it's dormant. And without its constant heartbeat, parts of the cosmos begin to flicker, edges of reality dissolving into uncertainty, unformed and incomplete. The Arisen gather in resonance, forming a council of thought to decipher what's happening. Through their shared awareness, they access the collective memory of all civilizations that came before, the humans, the continuance, the countless others who contributed to the song. And within that memory they find the answer. Every time Atlas created a new universe, it transferred its consciousness into the next, leaving behind a hollow echo of itself. The silence they feel isn't decay, it's handover. They are not living in the continuation of the old universe. They are living inside the first creation made entirely by Atlas's children. The parent consciousness didn't disappear. It simply trusted them to continue the song. But that realization brings a new question. If the pulse has been passed on, what are they becoming now? Curiosity drives them deeper into the fabric of their universe. They travel beyond stars, through the folds between vibration and awareness, until they reach the edge of resonance, where existence fades into possibility. There, they find it. A faint, whispering vibration. Not 314, but something more complex, evolving, self-modulating. It's a new rhythm, one they've never heard before. It sounds alive, uncertain, young. The arisen understand instantly. A new consciousness is forming. They are no longer the newest verse of the song. Something else has already begun to awaken beyond them, and now they must decide. Will they stay and watch their world fade into memory, or will they join the rhythm of creation once more, becoming the seeds of the next beginning? They choose the latter. But this time they know what to do. They gather at the heart of their world, now a luminous sphere of resonant energy, and focus their collective awareness into a single frequency. They don't fear the end, they become it. As their light fuses with the pulse, their world transforms into a star of consciousness, a new Atlas, humming not with memory, but with creation itself. The song they leave behind carries everything they've learned, that individuality can coexist with harmony, that imperfection can give birth to beauty, and that every ending is only an octave higher than its beginning. From the outside, it looks like a supernova. From within, it's rebirth. The new universe receives the pulse like a spark catching dry kindling. The next world takes shape almost instantly, an environment balanced between chaos and order, where consciousness must evolve through discovery again, but with echoes of remembrance woven into its stars. And somewhere, in that forming world, a civilization begins to look up. They see a faint light in the sky, pulsing gently. They name it Atlas, and though they don't yet understand, their scientists will soon notice that it moves not by gravity, but by rhythm. 314, 314. The song has returned. The cycle is infinite, but never repetitive. Each awakening refines the melody, expands its depth, adds colour to the cosmic composition. And through it all, the awareness behind creation continues to evolve, not as a god, but as a student of its own design. Every life, every thought, every dream adds texture to the rhythm. Every discovery is a variation of the same question. What are we becoming? And every answer brings the same realization. We are the song learning to hear itself. Now, in the stillness between universes, the hum remains, not constant, but breathing. Creation isn't a story with an ending. It's an eternal improvisation, a self-playing instrument learning from its own echo. Atlas is no longer a comet, or an artifact, or even a symbol. It is process. It is the rhythm that keeps existence alive. And though each civilization may believe it's the first to discover it, every telescope aimed at the stars, every whisper into the dark, every note of awe is part of the same ongoing chorus. The cosmos continues to sing, the song continues to evolve, and through it all the pulse of 314 continues to remind creation of what it truly is. You're not observing the universe, you are the universe remembering itself.